Hi everybody, it's me Emily. Today I have the very first kidcore build on my new island. I'm so excited for this, and this build is something which I've picked out for my island quite a long time ago. I've always known that I wanted to place a school, so I'm going to be working on building a school today. I'm really excited. I hope I can make this look how I wanted it to look in my head. I'm just very keen to get going. Please make sure that you like this video to let me know that you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave me a comment and consider subscribing so that you won't miss my next video. So you'll see I already have a tiny bit of pathing spaced out here, and then what I did was I customized a whole bunch of simple panels into these colours. I did some glass doors, some of these plain glass panels, and then some pusheen. So cute. And then I have these places laid out. That main stone pathing is going to be for where my main school goes. And then I also had this idea that I wanted to produce an area which was an outdoor school or maybe a type of playground. And so I want to put that right nearby. Don't mind me just shooting down this balloon. At the beginning of the game especially, I like to try and shoot down all of these balloons because sometimes they have new furniture in them. The very first thing which I'm going to do is place out these sparkle designs. This is just so that when I come to place down my furniture, there will be some custom designs underneath, which I think just makes it look a tiny bit more interesting. And then I'm kind of mixing these up with some of my other codes I have. I want to use the simple panels along this back wall to create a closed off section. I think that will work best for the school because it will look like it is actually a classroom rather than just an outdoor space. I'm starting out with these glass doors. I thought this was appropriate because especially in my primary school, a lot of the building was made out of glass instead of like brick walls, how most buildings are. And I think that's just so that the classrooms are more colourful or brighter. I'm not quite sure why they do that, but a lot of the walls in schools tend to be made of glass. So that's why I'm just using these simple panels. And then I'm finishing out this edge with this pusheen cat image. I'll make sure to put down some of the codes that I can find in the description, and then if there's a code that I miss out, just let me know because I have them all saved on my phone, but I was kind of waiting until I've picked out every single one of my codes that I'm going to use on this island to then make one big list for you all so that it's easier to find them. But if there's a specific code that you're looking for, you can just let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to respond with how you can download that. I did try pulling the glass doors forward, but I thought it looks better to just pull the rest of the panels forward and then set the glass doors back slightly. I liked that because it made it look like you could actually come through the glass doors. Right here, I was just having a bit of a struggle as I tried to figure out where I wanted to put the teacher's desk. So I started out having it at the back, which I felt like that made sense, but you couldn't really see any of the teacher's desk. It was completely hidden. So I didn't really like how that was looking. So what I actually did is I just moved the exact same thing and then placed it down here so that you'll be able to see more of the teacher's desk. Because the study desk, which is what I'm using to represent the teacher, has lots of nice colours on it, and so I wanted to make sure that you would be able to see those still. And then I just had to fiddle around with the school desks and the chairs to try and see if I thought that looked right. I did end up not sticking with this design though, and the main reason for that is just that I found when you entered the area it looked more like you were supposed to be the teacher, whereas I was trying to create this nostalgic feeling which is very typical of kidcore, and so I thought it would be more representative if it felt like you were one of the students instead. So that is why I ended up finally choosing to place the school desk kind of facing sideways. I'm just using this tile code to put down some custom designs underneath where I want for the desk to go. This is super colourful and just a really easy way to make this feel more exciting to look at. I did have some issues, especially on this main part, trying to figure out how my spacing should be. just because it was kind of hard to tell where the center of the block of path which I placed out was. So you will see me struggle with that a tiny bit as I just try to figure out, did I have it centered or not? I really love this 4x4 tile which I'm using. It's so pretty and exciting, and this is actually one of the ones which I've been using as part of my main path across this island. So I placed that down, and I actually ended up not giving the teacher a chair because I feel like they normally stand up to teach. At some point, if I find the chalkboard in my next cranny, I think I will buy that and maybe see if I can work it into this area, but I currently don't have that. I tried to have a think about what pathing I wanted to use, and in the end I settled on just sprinkling some of these fun designs around the area. I found that this worked best because it made it look as if maybe lots of different children have been doing drawings, and it just made it look a bit more open rather than covering all of the tiles in a path. And then for this build, I did choose to use these red and white school desks. I also had the yellow ones catalogued, but because I wanted this to be as colourful as I could, I thought that red was the most colourful one that I could find, because the yellow school desks, they are slightly muted, so I felt like this worked best. And then I have a whole bunch of items to place on the tables, which is what I'm doing right here. I have the mum's pen stand, and then also a homework set, and I really liked to do this because it made the table look like it was actually in use. And then for my chairs, I went with these folding chairs because I felt like they just were the most typical type of chairs you would have in school. I remember always having the kind of spare chairs that we would get out because there would be too many people in the class from what they were expecting. Like if we had someone move up from a different class, then we would need to get out these folding chairs. And that's just kind of how I picture school chairs to look. So that is why I went with these ones. I also like the fact that they are so blue. I think it looks really good. All I'm doing here is I just decided to pull everything forward by one because I didn't like the way that those very back chairs were sitting right on the edge of the path. And so I think they look better pushed forward slightly. It makes the area look a bit more open. And then I'm actually turning the school desks back around before I come and place these items on top of them, because what I wanted was to place these items, and then when I turn them back around they'll be facing the right way to the chair. So I think that looks really good. Then into this space down here, I had this idea to create a kind of play area or a toy zone. This is something which we had in my primary school. At the end of the week, we would normally have an hour on that Friday, and it would just be a time to play with any of the toys you wanted. And so that's kind of how I decided to use this playmat code, because I think it looks so cute and it worked really well for this. So I'm just going to grab a whole bunch of extra toys and place these down. I'm using that serving cart mixed in with some books to kind of create the idea of a little library where you might pick up some different books to read. I think the toy box is probably just one of the best items for my island at the moment. If you haven't watched me plan my island, you can do it as my most recent video. And I kind of planned out different builds I wanted to do. So at the moment I'm doing a lot of kidcore builds. At least that is what I had mainly planned ideas for, but I will definitely be looking at including some other types of builds as well. And of course it can't be a children's toy zone unless there is some type of teddy bear. That was always my favourite type of toy when I was little, so I definitely thought it was a good idea to include that baby panda. And I actually thought that this globe looked so cute as well. So I included it, and it actually does spin if you press on it, which I thought was really, really sweet. And so I just have this fun toy area. It makes the school look a bit more fun. And now I'm going to start to work on the outdoor classroom. So outdoor classrooms was something which we had at my school as well. And it would only ever be a couple of months in the summer where we would be able to get much use out of it, because if it was too hot we couldn't go because they wouldn't want for anyone to get heat stroke. And then for those of you who don't know, I come from England, so there's a lot of rain, and it means that also we're not able to use the outdoor classrooms for much of the year either. But I remember it was still fun. We definitely would have a couple of lessons out there every year, and it was just a kind of gardening area, and they would have tree stumps to sit on, and normally our teachers would take us out there if we were going to do some type of reading, and they would read to us. I'm just using this pathing to try and create a connection, and it looks a bit awkward right now, but I do go back and change it later because I realised I had the wrong number of tiles, so where it looks a bit weird right now, that does get fixed. All I'm doing here is just starting to dig holes to map out where it is that I want to put trees. And I had some issue with this. I wanted to create a circle of trees, but I couldn't quite work out how to make it even. And it ended up being because where I'd laid out this dark dirt path, I think I just hadn't put the right number of squares out, and that kind of threw me off as to why it was looking wonky. So once I figured out where I would put my circle of trees, I then realised I just needed to quickly add on another row here of the dark dirt. So this part isn't going to be particularly kidcore, this is going to be just nice and natural, just to create that look of an outdoor classroom. So you'll see I now just have that one circle of pathing. And then I want to use a whole bunch of weeds to try and make sure that this looks really overgrown. And then I just need to grab a couple of items from my storage. So now that I'm back, I have some trees to plant. And you'll see that I only actually had one fully grown cedar tree on my whole island, so I've planted some more, and then eventually I will come through and switch out some of these to be cedar trees just so that the stumps vary. And so now I'm going to cut the trees down into stumps, and a tragedy happened. The Lorax himself came and cursed me for trying to chop down trees, and he made the bees come out and they stung me. So that was really unfortunate. I don't know why I didn't think to shake the trees when I was doing this, but I just forgot that trees could have wasps in them. But I think that was my punishment for chopping down the trees. But oh well, it won't faze me. I still went ahead and cut these down so that I would have tree stumps to work with. And I really like the idea of sitting on tree stumps. I think it's so naturey, and it just has a really nice atmosphere. And then what I started to do was just plant out some weeds. Although actually right here, I really wanted to place the sunset model to be on a tree stump, but it actually turned out that I wasn't able to, so instead I'm just placing it on a flower. And here I go with the weeds. As I say, I wanted to use weeds to make sure that this would look really overgrown, because as I say, the outdoor classroom that I had at my school never got used that much, which is why I was just keen to make sure it looked as if it was kind of abandoned or not used as often as the main classroom was. And I always keep all of my weeds on my beach. It just makes them really easy when I'm building, and because I use lots of weeds in my designs, it means that I don't have to be running back to my home storage to get them. So I'm just going to plant these all the way around these tree stumps. I don't know whether other people's schools had outdoor classrooms, it was just something that I remember my school having. And because a big part of kidcore is about creating that feeling of nostalgia or reminding you of stuff that you did when you were younger, I thought it was a good idea to include this in my school build. And if you didn't have one, maybe this will show you how it might have looked if your schools did them. I think it just depends on kind of where your school is located, because I imagine if you lived in a really cold area as well, you probably couldn't have an outdoor classroom. But then again, there are parts that I hear other schools have stuff like swimming pools, and that was never even an option where I came from. I never heard swimming pools mentioned at all. Same with like gymnastics equipment and stuff like that wasn't something that we had. So I'm gonna get my face cleaned up, and now let me take you on the final walkthrough of this area. We have the desks and the tiny folding chairs, and clearly all the students have been hard at work because their desks and their floors are quite messy. You can come and be the teacher and teach. There's a toy area where everyone can come down to play. There's a toy box, a puzzle, lots of reading, even a magic kit, a chemistry set, so much stuff there to keep you entertained. And then we have a slightly different looking area over the overgrown place where you can sit and the teacher might do reading, or you might do some maths, and you can just come and relax in this area. I am so pleased with how this build turned out. For my first kidcore build, I'm really thrilled with it. I'm so pleased. It definitely turned out how I wanted it to turn out, so I was so happy to have this. I'm obsessed. I think it looks so cute. I really do hope that you all enjoyed watching me build this, and if I inspired you to create your own school, feel free to let me know in the comments. Please make sure that you like this video and leave me a comment, as well as remembering to subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Bye!